can't think as people do. The machine is different.
Being! What marvelous being! How gratifying! How gratifying!
That's a pretty intense film. I'm going to switch a lot of gears right now and just give you some highlights of what has been done in this world of science and hallucinogenic drugs. And again, I can just touch upon a few things. I'd like to leave all the questions to the end. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Now, what we just saw in that film, dealt with natural plants, and it's been going on since dawn of civilization that man has been taking plants that are hallucinogenic, that have been involved in religious ceremonies, mystical experiences, healing powers. What I want to concentrate on is the last 75 years or so, what is known about the neuroscience behind hallucinogenic drugs, and really focusing on what has been happening in the last 10, 15 years. There's a resurgence of great interest in using various hallucinogenic drugs as therapeutics and aids in psychotherapy and other mental illnesses, and I'll get to that. So this all started with Albert Hoffman when he synthesized LSD in the 1940s. He was working on a compound that he was thinking would help with respiration. Well, when he was working in the lab, he didn't have any protections on his hands. The substance that he synthesized absorbed through his fingers, and he rode his bicycle home that day and had this profound hallucinogenic psychedelic experience. And that is coming up, anniversary of that day, April 19th, is also known as Bicycle Day, because he rode his bicycle home. He thought he was losing his mind. He didn't know what was going on. But along with his synthesizing LSD and the discovery of the kind of neurotransmitter serotonin, you can see there's similar chemical structure. This is the only chemistry here, you don't have to know this, but there's a similar structure with LSD and serotonin, and this led to an early hypothesis that LSD, psychedelics trip after LSD could be very similar to psychosis and schizophrenia. And so that's an early hypothesis that this drug could be used as a tool to probe mental illness. Now there's a lot of differences between an experience with LSD and psychosis. One of namely that most alterations in perception are visual with using hallucinogenic drugs such as LSD, where the hallucinations that schizophrenic or someone who experiences a psychotic episode is auditory, so that's one difference. But it led to some early hypotheses that people have worked with, and it's true that the serotonin system is involved. Let me back up. I'm used to talking to a scientific audience. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter in the brain, and it's the neurotransmitter system that Prozac and other antidepressants act on. Let's see if I can advance the slide. There we go. So there's a lot of excitement using these compounds in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and primarily they were used clinically to treat addiction, and it was very profound effects working with alcoholics and morphine-dependent patients that they stopped drinking, didn't have dependence on their morphine, didn't have craving for morphine afterwards. It was also used as an adjunct to psychotherapy, really helped people who couldn't feel empathetic towards others, opening up insights into their mental illness. Also, was used in the 60s with people diagnosed with cancer. And as some of you might have known back in the 60s, well, cancer still sucks now, but in the 60s, once you're diagnosed, there was an instant death sentence. So you can imagine someone who was diagnosed with cancer, they were very depressed, couldn't deal with it. Some early studies giving LSD and other drugs such as psilocybin opened up their way of thinking, their transition from with a diagnosis to being connected with their family, to reflect back on their lives, and it held great promise. But some of these studies were more like case studies, they weren't really scientific, and a lot of the studies done with morphine addicts and alcoholics was done in an institutionalized setting. So it wasn't...
There we go.
So there was a lot of great excitement, some progress, but as you all know, and some of you probably lived through the 1960s, there was a big backlash against what was happening culturally, socially, and the use of LSD. And there were several laws that were passed, and the biggest thing was that drugs like LSD, psilocybin, mescaline, MMDA was grouped along with marijuana as a Schedule I drug. It was grouped with like heroin. And the biggest thing was that it was defined as no accepted medical use. And we're still encountering this now with the use of marijuana as medicine, even though it's legal in Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and there's medicinal marijuana in several states. According to the U.S. government, the DEA, marijuana doesn't have medicinal use. There's a lot of political pressure to get that changed, and now slowly with these psychedelic drugs, there's more political pressure to get it off of Schedule I, and that will remove a lot of hurdles that scientists have to use, clinicians have to use to get these compounds back into the clinic and work with individuals. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to point this. Okay, I just want to briefly talk about some of the neuroscience behind using these compounds. And one thing we can do is give an animal a hallucinogenic drug and observe it. And something else that we can do, we can set up experiments and really probe what is the pharmacology behind it, what brain regions might these drugs be acting at. And so one particular experimental paradigm is called drug discrimination. While that's going on, we can have a drink of water. All right, so this is just where you can train an animal, a rat or a mouse, to lever press like a right lever after it received a small dose, a low dose of LSD. Now it associates that internal feeling, experience that it is having with LSD with a food reward on the right level. And then you train it to press the left lever, and so now it discriminates that, yes, once it receives LSD, it'll press a certain lever, the right one or the left one, and receive something else. Now, you're using whatever internal cue that animal is experiencing with a hallucinogenic drug as a positive finding. And now we can come in with different drugs that can block receptors in the brain and also look at where different brain regions that are involved in this. We can have genetic knockout mice that doesn't have certain serotonin receptors. And based on this, this is one take-home message. All classical hallucinogenic drugs, LSD, mescaline, DMT, psilocybin, all act through the serotonin 2A receptor. And this has been shown in animals, and it's also been shown in humans. And this is just a graph showing you how these compounds interact with the serotonin receptor. And this is just showing you this cross-section through a rat brain where in the cortex is in the front of the brain, this is interacting with. And it's certain cells that we know in the prefrontal cortex. And so we can go in, see what genes are turned on, what proteins are made in response to these compounds. Now, what I really want to focus in on, where are we right now, and where is this all going? And this is the real exciting part. This is sort of related to the theme of the movie. Roland Griffith at Johns Hopkins University, he's an addiction researcher. He himself was very interested, he meditates. He was very interested in the meditation state. And he thought, well, we know that these compounds, such as psilocybin, produce a mystical experience, and he wanted to study that in a very controlled setting. So he sought out volunteers that were spiritual, religious, and drug naive. So they never ever had any psychedelic drug before. And they brought them into a very loving, comfortable living room setting. There was a lot of support staff. They took a pretty large dose of psilocybin, and pretty much all of them had these wonderful mystical experiences, spiritual experiences, religious experiences. They could bring in music that they wanted. And as you can see here, the bottom line on this quote was one of the most meaningful and spiritual significant events of their lives. And then they rated it up there with the birth of a child, being married, other just very pleasurable effects in their life. And they followed up a year later, and they still rated very highly. And so now, this is very important research that it's with normal, healthy subjects in a very controlled setting using very, very powerful substance, psilocybin. And he's following up with looking at using this as treatment to depression, tobacco addiction, if we can help with addiction. And then another thing that is going on in the world of neuroscience is imaging sciences, where using various techniques such as fMRI, PET studies, and other types of technologies, we can look into the brain while someone is on this experience. And you can ask questions like, what are you experiencing at this moment? And see where in the brain something's being activated. And these are two researchers that are on the forefront of it. One is Franz Bohlenbinder, who's in Switzerland, and David Nutt, who's in England. Here you can probe using compounds trying to block the effects of psilocybin. You can, like I mentioned, ask questions while what they're experiencing or perceptual changes, and then finally get into genetics and patient populations. And just briefly, I know this is a little bit busy, this is the type of data you can get, and just on this axis here, coming out are different doses of psilocybin and changes in perception. So while the subject is experiencing this, they're in a fMRI or PET study scanner, and you can image the brain, and you see activation in various regions. In this one here, they correlate a activation in the cortex and a deactivation in the thalamus. They're just different brain regions. And this is sort of was associated with the experience of oceanic boundlessness, and that's where your self sort of dissolves and you're connected to the world, sort of like the conclusion of the movie. So this is pretty exciting stuff. And now just the laundry list. These are various clinical studies that are currently going on, and I'm including MMDA, which is truly a hallucinogenic drug, but it's also a Schedule I drug. And it's being used in addiction research, terminal anxiety, like I mentioned, cancer patients, cluster headaches, OCD, and depression. And this is more like a single dose for the patients who get insight into their disorders. I don't know if any of you have heard about ketamine now being used as an antidepressant. It's sort of like one dose, maybe a shock to the system, a reorganization of maybe some neurochemistry, and along with some cognitive therapy and other types of therapy, maybe gain insight into your depression and OCD. Again, cancer-related depression, more addiction and alcoholism, and then finally PTSD. I worked with some PTSD patients years ago, and they really need help. A lot of things don't work with them, antidepressants don't work, and it looks like MMDA is working in there. And then reducing dyskinesias and brain trauma with MMDA. I'm just going to skip this slide. This is just showing you that MDA has been working really well with PTSD patients. And I'm just going to finish up here. If you're really interested in this, like I said, there's a lot of hurdles that we have to go over, to get this approved. Once things change, that it's no longer a Schedule I drug. If you're interested in getting involved, you can write your Congress person, senators, and then there's also various funding institutes that support this type of research. And finally, I just need to acknowledge my funding research that supports me so I can come and talk to you like this. So I'll open it up to any questions now.
Yeah, we only have a couple minutes before we have to turn the whole over for the next screen, but anybody has a burning question? Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I've sort of felt a call to activism over this very thing the past couple of months. Are there any local groups that you can get involved with?
I don't know offhand. I don't know if anyone local. I think the major thing, and the state of Tennessee is going to be a struggle to work with. It's even with medicinal marijuana, which that's really breaking down a lot of barriers now for us. I would think, if you try to contact me, maybe I can look up, but I don't know of anyone locally right now. None of this research, what's going on, not much is going on at Vanderbilt. What I was doing years ago was all with animals, and I couldn't get funding anymore. And one reason is the institute that I got funding from was the National Institute of Drug Abuse. So just their mission, just starting off, is that using LSD would be a drug of abuse. But LSD itself is an abuse. It's not addicting. You can't overdose on it. So it's a struggle, a big political study to work with.
Is ayahuasca included in the mix too?
Yes, so that's a mixture, that's DMT, that's also taken with yohimbine to make it long acting. There are some studies using DMT because that's a shorter acting hallucinogenic drug. So like LSD, 8-10 hours. So some of these therapy sessions, they want to be a little bit shorter. So they're moving more towards DMT. But one of the issues is what's approved. So in Switzerland, they can use psilocybin. So once something's approved, it's easier to stick with that. But there's studies being planned with DMT, yes.
So we have time for one more quick question.
I was just wondering, you mentioned that LSD being non-addictive and not something that people abuse often, and not opioids, but are there any documented negative effects?
Yes, I sort of glanced over that. Yes, even there's such thing as a bad trip, long-lasting effects. There is something called, flashbacks. There's a hallucination, persistent perceptual disorder where it is flashbacks, and there's some adverse effects. And in the study at Johns Hopkins, a very controlled, supportive environment, some of those subjects had bouts of like intense emotional reaction, anxiety, and with the therapist, they worked through it. It didn't have long-lasting effects, but not everyone has a happy trip, and that's sort of
But like long-term, a little long-term?
It gets complicated. So some people who might be predisposed to mental illness, if they take a hallucinogenic drug, that might trigger a mental breakdown, a psychosis event. So they're predisposed. So it could be the individual was at risk for mental illness and this just triggered it. So that's an adverse thing. Bad trips could be reinforced, and flashbacks, something could trigger flashbacks. So another take-home message, they're not safe drugs. And do it in a supportive, if you're going to do it, do it in a supportive environment with friends and all that.
Okay, that's a good one. I
So
know
I'm told to do.
right. A couple other hands up. Maybe Paul will talk to you outside. But thank you so much, Paul Gresch. Thank